In this video, we're having a look at the reasons why not to overtake on a bend. Let's examine the animation and discuss a few points. The most obvious reason for not overtaking on a bend is due to lack of visibility of any oncoming vehicles. And this is exacerbated when one overtakes on the outer edge of a curve, as we'll see the driver of the red vehicle doing. So in other words, if it was a country where you're driving on the left-hand side of the road and we had the bus on this side of the road, the driver of the red vehicle behind him, and then the green vehicle in the inner lane, then it's a lot easier for the driver of the red vehicle to gain sight of any oncoming traffic. But when it's on the outer edge of the curve, then because of the intervening vehicle, that driver's visibility is blocked of any oncoming traffic. So if you were to draw a line from his sight through to the opposite side of the road, he wouldn't be able to see that vehicle. And this would continue for a distance until eventually the oncoming vehicle got to the point where it was now visible. But that may be too late, depending on both the speed of the vehicles as well as the tightness of the bend or the curve. Invariably, where there is a bend or a curve in the road and it's not safe to overtake, you'll find that there would be a solid line, and in some cases, a double solid line. So as drivers, we want to pay heed and attention to the road markings because they're there for a reason, to indicate that this is not a safe section to be overtaking on. Yeah, we've got a real life clip demonstrating this exact thing. And when we have a look at this clip, you see the driver overtaking the camera on the left side here, doing a number of things wrong. So first of all, note the visibility is not that clear, so it's somewhat foggy or misty. There's a solid yellow line, and as we advance the video, now notice this driver, instead of now, after overtaking the camera, pulling in to the gap, now he decides to stay on the opposite side of the road in order to overtake the bus. So that's dangerous in that the more time we spend on the wrong side of the road, the greater the chances or likelihood will be that we'll face a head-on collision situation. So whenever we're overtaking, we want to try and minimize the time that we spend on the opposite side of the road. So this driver doesn't do that. Now comes the outer curve of the bend, and so at this point, he's definitely not able to see this oncoming vehicle. In the next clip, we've got the driver overtaking a camera once again, but this is on the inner edge of the curve. So not on the outer side of the curve, inner side of the curve, so you can see that any oncoming vehicles are more visible. In fact, this driver has his headlights on, so it should be fairly visible. However, it could be that the driver, once he started overtaking, was further back, and due to the curvature and the forest near the edge of the road, and this driver having been further along the bend, may not have been visible at the time that he started overtaking. Now notice both drivers move onto the verge of the road, and so we have the head-on collision. You'll see, and I'll describe this a little bit later in one of the real-life clips to follow, but we'll just discuss this point of head-on collision a little bit further when we get to that clip. Right, so here we've got an interesting scene. I've included this clip for a number of reasons. As you develop your skills in being able to identify danger areas or zones on the road, you'll be able to, just at a glance, at a scene like this, be able to naturally pick up where the danger areas are. So let's take this as an example. As you approach a scene like this, what are the potential pitfalls that you face as a driver on the road? Well, let's start on the left side. What immediately springs to sight are these chevron signs. So that indicates that this is a bit of a dangerous corner, sharp corner for any faster approaching traffic. And so these are here for a reason, because probably they've had a number of incidents in this section of the road. And so they put up these chevron signs. So that's the first warning sign. The next, we can see two mirrors that are actually placed over here. So that means that there's an exit of sort just around the corner coming out of the building, and that's why these mirrors have been placed here, to give the driver a view of traffic coming from either side of the bend. So that also highlights that there could be a vehicle exiting from the building here just by the existence of these mirrors. Then as we advance the video, you'll see that the terrain just to the side of the road is very uneven. Quite deep ditches that are lining the side of the road. We've got vegetation here, and we don't know what's on the other side or underneath the vegetation. So judging by how uneven the terrain is here, if one needs to go off onto the shoulder of the road into this vegetation area, there's a good chance it's going to be just as undulating and just as treacherous. So that's an area one wouldn't want to go into as an escape route. Then we come on to the right-hand side of the scene. We see here's a ramp, so there could be vehicles exiting. We've got a narrow shoulder section, so there's not much of an escape route on this side. And then just to the right of that is a deep trench. And so if one's wheels just on an average size vehicle go into that trench, you won't have the clearance in order to be able to get out of that trench. So that's a dangerous area that we want to steer clear of. The building is right up very close to the road. And so because of that, there's not much visibility around the corner. It's a multiple story, so who knows what maybe naughty teenager will throw something out of the top of the window there. So there's that possibility. Note that there's a telephone pole here, and so it could be that somebody's not paying attention, driving along, veers off the road, knocks a pole down, and so we've got these wires that are crossing the road that could be a potential hazard as well. So just at a quick glance, you can see there's a number of warning signs, and so the idea of this course is to help you to just at a glance be able to build up your skills and immediately be able to read the scene as to where the potential pitfalls are. However, we're looking at not overtaking on a bend, and so we'll see what happens here. So the oncoming truck traveling too fast for this particular hazardous corner. In this next clip, I've included it for a few reasons. Let's just advance it. Right, so here we can see there's a bit of a mountainous area, quite a steep road, either for vehicles going up or coming down. And so for trucks traveling along a road like this, if they're coming downhill, they have to engage lower gears so that the weight they're carrying doesn't run away with the vehicle. So that's to just restrain the speed. And because of that, you see it's single lane. Because of that, any vehicles behind such a larger vehicle would eventually become impatient if they're stuck. It's a very windy road and they don't have that opportunity to try and get past the truck. So they're more likely then to take a chance and a risk in trying to bypass such a slower vehicle. So for you as a driver in the oncoming lane, always be aware of that. If it's a single lane, it's a hilly section, and there are larger vehicles on the road, know that the other vehicles that are likely wanting to overtake and maybe due to impatience take a risk. And so that's exactly what's happened with the driver of this bus over here. Fortunately, this is a motorcycle, so it's a lot narrower and is able to move off to the shoulder of the road to avoid a head-on collision. But one can imagine just what could have happened. All right, so whether you're going uphill or downhill, be careful of vehicles overtaking in order to get past slower vehicles. This last clip I've included because it also shows a bend and a vehicle overtaking, oncoming vehicle, so heading towards the camera. But I want to show you what the camera does to avoid a head-on collision. So let's run the clip. So the camera had noticed a vehicle overtaking, and immediately he's decided to go onto the shoulder section of the road so that the oncoming vehicle knows not to do that, and that it's safe for him to pass on this side of the road. And so the camera does exactly the right thing. The shoulder section that he's going onto is wide enough, it's tarred, so that's not a danger in itself. It's level, and so it doesn't pose a threat for him to go onto the shoulder section. It makes it a lot safer. So I do have another video that discusses the options of whether it's best when facing an oncoming vehicle, a head-on collision situation, whether it's best to go onto the shoulder section or to stay in your lane on your side of the road. So which would be the better option? I'll put a link in the description section of the video below. You can go have a look at that, because I go into a fair amount of detail as to the factors to take into account when one makes the decision as to which path to take. Please like, subscribe, and get notified.